And scene. Last time we left off, Deku's disappearance had left a gaping hole within the Midoriya residence, as both his mother and his sister had split up into a two-man team to search for his whereabouts, only to be unable to make out his location. We would then flip to the next day where they're both on the train and they have already begun to loathe and begin to reflect on their actions as a whole regarding Deku and everything up until this point, to which, while doing so, both of them become completely unaware of their surroundings around them and are completely void of perception itself. So when their stop does appear, a stranger would have to get the attention of one of them, which is Inko, to which she's able to get out of it due to hear children's laughter, and she's able to grab Dekina before the train can leave off from their stop. And once they get out, they tell the person before the train door closes, "Thank you," and they would then come off of the platform and make it down to the street level stairway. And after they do so, they make a sharp turn right and go straight down towards the be a police station. To once they make it there, Dekina would then fine tune her genetics, and once they head in, everything would go smoothly. So while they're both walking in, Inko tells Dekina once they get to the front desk to go ahead and sit over to the right, and she would do so while Inko is making the missing persons report on her brother. Simultaneously, while this is taking place, a man with a white shirt and blue jeans comes out. He then takes a few steps, does a backwards 360, turns around, and exchanges pleasantries with the constable officer, who then went ahead and called him by his original name, which is Small Might. And after doing so, the man ends up telling the officer, "Have a good day." And before he can leave, it's due to the fact that Inko would have been still making the report at this given time. And after he would overhear this, he would then stop and he would turn and begin to introduce himself to Miss Midoriya and explain why he is there and explain that he's a registered hero and he would like to help her locate her son. To which then Inko would turn and look at the officer, with one of them giving her a smile and a nod that he is telling the truth of who he is, to which he would then turn in Dekina's direction and tell Dekina, "Come Dekina, we're going home." And they would end up going back to the Midoriya residence. Now once they get there, Inko would have taken a few minutes to explain the whole thing to Small Might, which then, after she explains how her son disappeared, he would then tell her that he has some news regarding her son. He would tell her about the truck accident, which would then drain the color out of her. And then he would then proceed to try and raise her spirits by letting her know that her son wasn't hurt and that there was zero blood stain found at the scene, to which does give her some hope. So then she does ask Small Might if he can help find him, and he tells her yes, but it will take some time. And in the meantime, while that's all taking place, he would like to do something else. He then turns to Dekina, explain to Dekina that he can actually train her and help her if she's willing to do so, and that he was looking for a person to pass down his quirk to which Dekina tells him that she will accept the training, but he can keep his quirk. And she explains that it would be cool to have this quirk, but right now she can barely manage her own, to which is not a lie. So Small Might would then buff up and turn into All Might, and then that's when they would realize that both Inko and Dekana are speaking to the number one hero. So after doing so, he would then go over a game plan with them and say that he would train Dekana on the weekends, and on the weekdays she would go to school. He would give Miss Midoriya a call and let her know, and he then hands both Inko and Dekana two cards with his number on it, to which he explains, just call the number and I'll pick up, but don't tell anyone because, that's his number. So after doing so, pretty much that's when Dekana asks Inko, hey mom, is it okay if I go train? And she tells Dekana that's fine, as long as All Might agrees to stick to his promise and let her know where you let me know where you are, then it's okay. To which All Might does tell her thank you and that no worries, nothing will happen to her. He'll actually ensure that. So he would then explain that he would have to bring Dekana along to wherever they find DEKU at, because he would explain that from what the police report sounds, it sounded if he was in a some kind of state which he was not coherent or able to realize what was going on. To which does, shock Inko. And I'm going to say she tells All Might she didn't know. And he tells her not to worry. But he does tell her she needs to, keep the faith and be hopeful that, he will get back her son. To which she does tell him that she will do her best. And after doing so, he would look at his clock and say that unfortunately it's time for him to go. And before he leaves, he does tell Dekana that there's a place called Dagobah Beach. That's where she's going to meet him during the weekends to train. And on the weekdays, she will be at school. So he would then take his leave, and pretty much Dekana and Inko would go back to their daily routine. Now, we would join Inko on Monday with her more or less going on break, and someone shows up, and that someone is Mitsuki, and they end up going to the break room on Inko's floor, and they begin to talk about life, things in general, and they somewhat get into how Inko is concerning Deku's disappearance, because I'm going to say that Inko and Mitsuki would still be friends, because I can't really see them being enemies, considering they both have daughters and they both have children, plus they're both still married, so there's no real reason for them to dislike each other. So more or less it's just Mitsuki letting Inko know that she just has to stay strong and be hopeful, and just know that her son will return to her, and that she just has to be more vigilant of what goes on in his life, to ensure that it doesn't affect his health, to which is true for the most part. As this is going on, they would pretty much say that they should probably hurry up, and they would finish eating and tell each other that they'll see each other after work, to which they would end up going home or going in the same direction. Anyway, so we pan over from them pretty much, leaving the break room to Dekana, who is, I'm gonna say, who is at school, and she's gone through most of the day, with the last class being with none other than Bakana. So Bakana is in class, and she decides to annoy and irritate Dekana, and I'm gonna say this is before class starts, so Dekana turns around, looks at Bakuna, and that's when Bakuna says, "I'm sorry, Dekuna. Please, I won't do that again. Okay, I get it." To which I'm gonna say Bakuna has seen when Dekuna's really pissed. So since even she's afraid of that just a little bit, she's not gonna push that boundary line. So Dekuna tells her that if you keep pushing me, I'm gonna cut you off, my brother. So don't push me. To which, Bakuna tells her, "Okay, Dekuna, I understand." And pretty much Dekuna turns back around, and the teacher would come in and say to everyone that he's sorry. And he's mostly speaking to Dekuna, because I'm going to say there's only a few people that really do the work in that class. Everyone else would still be struggling at this given point. So that ends up happening, and I'm going to say we actually flip over to pretty much All Might. And I'm gonna say he goes and speaks to the people that he's working with high up in chain command, like for instance FBI, CIA, and he explains to them he needs to track down a kid. So they tell him that it will take about roughly 5 months, because they have to piece together the information, especially I can't talk today, especially since it's coming from the underground, because All Might took back the underground from All For One, who at the time didn't realize that there was another quirk that was polar opposite of All For One, which was One For All. So by the time he figured, it was more or less when All Might would have gotten injured, and needless to say, All Might would have taken the underground from All For One back then. So, or now, pretty much. So basically, they tell All Might that they can gather the information, but it's gonna take him 5 months. And we switch over from All Might hearing that from the people he's working with to him, basically training with Dekuna. Now he's more or less, getting into theory. He's pulling, sneak attacks and tricks on her to show her how easy it is for an opponent with any type of medical quirk, or even a pincer, or even a doctor type quirk, how they can, enter or affect your body, or even catch you off guard. To which more or less is just really training, because I would believe that All Might would have fought many villains with different types of quirks, and while I believe there would have been a few out there with, a surgical type of quirk, or, a chemical quirk, he would want to pass on this knowledge to his student. So he basically would, teach her, and after the training is done, Inko would have been informed, that, she left, and I believe he would have informed her when she got there, except he wouldn't have been fighting her yet. So more or less, we really wouldn't have seen that, but, we would have known from Inko's demeanor that, yeah, she was informed when Dekuna came and left from All Might's training. So pretty much, I say it would have only taken Dekuna a day to really clear out the garbage, even if she had brought gloves, because I'm gonna say that she does have access to things like flight, strength, and speed, because those would be her natural abilities. Mind you, she's not exactly your average everyday quirked kid, to which is the reason why Bakuna's explosions didn't do more damage initially. So what happens from here is that we go into a 5-month gap, and next time we come back, guys, I'll end it here. I'm going to get into the whereabouts of Deku and what's gonna happen next. So I'll see you in the next one. Peace.